carers of a North London girl have been jailed for life for her killing. Tom Bateman has more on this disturbing case.
This is being described as one of Britain's worst ever cases of child abuse.
Victoria repeatedly slipped through the net of social services and the NHS as people failed to spot her plight. Her post-mortem revealed 128 separate injuries on her body.
The government has ordered an inquiry.
Haringey Council's Child Protection Agency admitted it was partly to blame.
In response to the Victoria Climbié inquiry of 2003, the government set out its new Green Paper. Every Child Matters has implications for all childcare agencies, but most of all for schools. Although the legislation was in reaction to child protection, Every Child Matters is all-encompassing. Under the new common framework, schools will be driven to work in multi-agency teams, be fully inclusive and open extended hours. Their responsibility now goes beyond the school gates as they care for every child in every way.
What ECM means for me is a shift in the culture and a real commitment to focusing on the individual child and their needs and what it takes for them to be able to succeed in school. I don't believe that there's any child anywhere who doesn't want to do better in school or in life. I think what happens is that sometimes children come to believe that they can't and so say they don't.
We know the schools are very inflexible places and you have to have flexibility in order to allow a child to fit in. Traditionally, I think schools, it's always, if the child doesn't fit, it's a child's problem. We try to see it another way and try to actually say, well, what do we have to do to make sure that that child and their family can fit?
The vision of Every Child Matters is very widely welcomed. We have the idea of 5 outcomes that work together that children and young people told us were the things most important to them, that they wanted to be healthy, stay safe, enjoy and achieve, make a positive contribution to society and achieve economic well-being. In a way, it's not a vision that you can argue with. The issue really is around the practicalities.
In this film, we look at how 2 inner-city secondary schools have taken on board their new duty of care. Mayfield School and College in north-east London is just beginning to implement its version of Every Child Matters, a school, like most, that has a number of additional support departments.
Morning. And any messages for me today?
Sue Jones coordinates the learning support team.
Good morning, SEN. Thank you. Good morning, can I help you?
Mayfield
Speaking.
School is a typical inner-city secondary school with a sophisticated internal pastoral care network.
He's a teenager and they hate their mums, so don't...
Currently we've got 3 learning mentors. We have a very large number of LSAs. We have a large SEN department, we have a large EAL department. When it really comes down to it, the real resource here is time. It's time and people. And time and people cost a lot of money.
I found out that I've got, at the moment, 1 support assistant won't be in today, so I now need to cover the child that she works with, because the child is a child with 25 hours support, which is full-time support in this school.
Like most schools, they only work with other childcare agencies off-site or as a bolt-on to their normal school. So when a child protection issue arises, they refer the case externally to the social services.
If we feel there's a child protection issue, we will make the referral because we feel that there is a concern. As far as I view it, it is then up to social services or whichever other body is involved to prioritise that referral. And it may be that they don't see it as being something that's very important. It may be that they see it as something that doesn't need action.
Right, boys, excuse me, out. You know that you're not in here, let's go.
I think the multi-agency working is fundamental to the success of Every Child Matters. If we're really serious about not getting into a situation like that of Victoria Climbié again, then we really do need a situation where people aren't falling through the gaps.
Sunita, can I have a quick word with you, please? I just really wanted to chat to you about... Sunita?
Pupils' needs range from physical and emotional to social and financial, many of which are out of the school's direct control. It's when these cases are referred to external agencies and schools have to work with other childcare professionals that the system most often breaks down.
We're trying to work out exactly what's happening with one of our students, Sunita. The problem is, you see, that we haven't actually heard back anything.
The actual reality of working together often produces in the teaching profession a certain defensiveness where teachers will return to what they regard as their core task. I am trying to educate this young person, and use that as defence against the different rates, the different rhythm, the different expectation of the intervention by social services or mental health.
Speaking to social services this morning, and to be honest, it's been a nightmare.
Different groups of professionals have got to find ways of working with each other, have got to find ways of speaking a common language, have got to find ways of being in the same building with each other, and I think that's going to be a challenge, because one of the things that we're finding, even in initial discussions about all this, is that it can be quite hard to find a common vocabulary.
On the other side of London is George Green School, a school which preempted the Every Child Matters agenda by about 11 years.
Straight in and get a late slip, please. You've missed registration, straight in and get a late slip.
A lot of things that are in Every Child Matters are things that we've been doing as a matter of course for years and years. So it's the staff who make the difference in this school, and it's about the processes you go through to involve them. They feel very much part of the vision. They understand what it is we're trying to do, and they know what their part is in that.
Trying to get them in on time. It's basically trying to hurry them in. We're missing the registration time. They're late already. We get 10 minutes for registration. 9:45 to 5 too. So we try to lock the gates dead on 5 too, but it's just gone.
The most important thing we've done is the way that we've developed people like Jabir. He came in as part of the sports leaders team. He was then trained as a teaching assistant, then trained in conflict resolution. Now, I think there'll be lots more things for Jabir, things that he can do.
George Green School has developed a close working relationship with external agencies and has a team of childcare professionals, all based on the school site. Duncan Evans was previously the local police officer, but has now joined the school's team and works on site full-time.
Basically my role is to protect victims and also suspects and build relations within the school so people get to know that police aren't seen as the bad side of things. Also reporting crime and picking up if there are any child protection issues, working with social services, youth offending teams, and with Jabir as well, to try and get in at the root cause of the problem.
I mean, I was born and bred in South Hamlets. I've never left the area, so when I was growing up, I mean, I never exactly had a good relationship with the police, so it's quite an eye-opener. When Duncan first started working in the school, one of the ideas that we suggested was sort of mix and match his uniform. One day come in his normal clothes on and uniform. So, you know, and Duncan's quite a trendy person, actually, I have to tell him that. And the kids just saw the other side of Duncan, the barrier wasn't there. Look at Duncan's trainers or look at Duncan's top and things like that. So it's seeing Duncan being a human being, that's what sort of helps towards building up the relationship with the pupils with Duncan.
On a regular basis, the whole team of health, social services, learning mentors, academic support and other professionals meet to discuss each case in turn. John Kelly, as head of teaching and learning support, is in charge of this multi-agency team.
Right, the reason we're here is so that we can have a discussion about the multi-agency review meeting I had on Robert last Thursday. These are the minutes, and I just want to make sure that we all know what's happening and that we're joining up. The social and academic inclusion team began out of a need within the school. We had a recognition that there were lots of initiatives going on, such as a behaviour support team. You have a complex needs team, there are literacy support teams, various other initiatives going on. So you might have 2 or 3 professionals working with someone and there wasn't a joined up thinking going on. In terms of health, Mary, tell us what's happening with Robert's medication and the health concerns that we have.
Yeah, he's currently on medication that the parents are administering, and they'd like us to administer it, but currently his attendance is too erratic.
We're not concerned the medication isn't being administered anywhere.
Our administering medicine policy says that we are allowed to give out this kind of tablet. And we could work, I think we should work towards that quite quickly, because I think it's a much safer situation.
In terms of social services intervention, is there any news on that at all?
No.
No, we're still waiting for progress. OK, fair enough. I think the way the network of professionals works is with education leading, and when it works very successfully, it's when the school is the hub of the network for an individual child. Now, the reason that works the best is because the school is usually the place that has the greatest contact with the family. So in an ideal situation, a child will attend the school every day. This means as a community hub, it's a much better place to draw in other professionals rather than an occasional visit to the hospital and an occasional visit to the psychiatrist or whatever it might be. How about Renee? I mean, obviously a lot of the time he's in school. Robert's been working with you. How's that going?
I think his whole attitude has changed, you know. It's really positive now, and I think we can actually start integrating him back into classes soon.
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. My concern with that is every other time we've tried to extend the provision or reintegrate him back into classes, it's gone pear-shaped, so to speak.
We actually stay in the class with him. I think he will do okay.
What's your sense of this? Because you probably know him as well as any of us.
I think, judging from the way I've seen him conduct himself within the school, he seems a lot more subdued and a lot quieter, a lot more focused.
Right.
Perhaps carry on for a bit as we are now, see how that goes, and then perhaps even if it's just like one lesson a week for, out that period that he's in, that he does that and see how it goes.
That'd be excellent. Like that.
It's going to have to be very small, step by step, so we don't rush.
It's a very good example of how the full service provision within the school has actually helped us to resolve crises in children's lives very quickly. Recently, 2 members of my team did a home visit because a lad was school-phobic and refusing to come to school. When they got there, the house was filthy, the heating and electricity had been cut off. There was a dog that was sleeping in a child's cot and other dog mess all over the carpet and things. They returned straight away to school and spoke to the school social worker. He was then able to make a visit the next day with the school policeman, gain access, and the child has been placed in the care of other people. He's now back in school and he's been included in school for a couple of hours a morning. Had this happened before the social worker was on site and before the school policeman was on site, we'd have had to go through a very long referral process whereby whatever was going on in that house would have continued to go on for weeks and possibly months, because social services would then have had to make a judgment from our referral against all the other referrals as to whether they acted on it.
Inclusion as a large part of Every Child Matters is driving schools to try and accommodate every child's needs. Mayfield School has a hugely mobile population. In any one week, they could have up to 20 pupils arrive or leave.
One of the biggest issues that we have is the sheer scale of it, where you have an individual teacher here may see upwards of 100 different students a day. For them to be able to identify every single need and to be able to intervene with every student is a tall order. So what we have is we have a large number of professionals who work with students.
So what 2 words do you think are going to go...
One of the key initiatives they run is providing additional English lessons to refugee children who have very basic English skills.
Football. Football, okay.
And one of the biggest issues that we face at the moment is that around about 12% of our student population are refugees. And if you can imagine the difficulty of being a refugee, having come from goodness knows what in your home country, suddenly finding yourself in a school in Dagenham in London, it could be a pretty frightening prospect for anybody. So we put a lot of work into developing integration and induction programs for these students so that they can at least have some sort of access to the curriculum as quickly as possible.
What question are you going to ask me? What's the first question you're going to ask?
Do you like play football?
Okay, yes I do. When they first came here, some of these children didn't speak English at all, and so we had to start with yes and no's really, and also starting with writing. Some of them didn't even know how to write because they'd never had education in their own countries.